You ever wonder why, even when we're surrounded by concrete and steel, our minds are still just so full of animals? Well, today we're diving into this incredible idea that our connection to the animal world isn't just a casual thing. It's deep, it's ancient, and it's a huge part of what makes us human. And this quote right here from Michael Bond's book, Animate, pretty much says it all. This is the central idea we're going to be exploring, that our very humanity is tangled up in the lives of other animals. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to go back. I mean, way back. We're about to take a little trip through 40,000 years of history to see how animals didn't just live next to us, they actually helped build the very way we think. So this is the big question, right? Most of us, we don't really interact with wild animals in our day-to-day lives. So why do they still pop up so often in our dreams, our stories, our myths, even our nightmares? It's a real mystery that gets to the very core of who we are. And that's what Bond's book is all about. It digs into that fascinating, kind of blurry line between what we think of as human and non-human, and that invisible wall we've built between culture and nature. To find the roots of all this, we have to travel back in time. Our story really begins in the Paleolithic era, a world where our ancestors' lives were completely and totally wrapped up in the animal kingdom. Just look at this timeline. For tens of thousands of years, way longer than our settled history, our lives were defined by animals. You can see it in that amazing cave art. Our brains were literally shaped in a world where you were either the hunter or the hunted. And then, about 10,000 years ago, everything started to change. This brings us to a really cool idea, being animal-minded. Think of it like a survival skill that our ancestors perfected. They had to be incredibly tuned in to how animals looked and moved, because, their lives depended on it. But here's the wild part, we still have that programming. So their relationship with animals, it was complicated. It was this amazing dance of competition and respect. On one hand, they hunted them to survive. On the other, they saw them as these powerful, almost sacred beings, which is probably why they painted them all over those cave walls. But that deep, primal connection, it didn't last. A huge shift started to happen in our history. A moment when humanity basically decided to draw a line in the sand and separate itself from the rest of the natural world. And it all started when we began farming and building permanent towns. As we took control of our food, that immediate, daily life-or-death relationship with wild animals started to fade. And that created the first real psychological gap between us and them. This chart just lays it all out so clearly. We went from a world where we saw ourselves as a part of nature, with animals as equals, to a world where we saw ourselves as separate from nature, where animals became resources, property. It was a total flip in our worldview. And eventually, this shift hardened into this really powerful idea called the Great Divide. And it's basically the assumption, which Bond argues is totally wrong, that humans are just fundamentally different, and let's be honest, better, than every other creature on the planet. And the important thing to remember is, this wasn't just some philosophical debate. This idea had huge, real-world consequences. It became the excuse for centuries of taking whatever we wanted from nature and for treating animals terribly, all because we decided we were special. But here's the twist. Even though we tried so hard to build this wall between us and the animal world, that ancient connection, it never really disappeared. It just went underground, deep into our own minds. And that's a great question, isn't it? If we're so different, so separate, why are our heads still so full of animals? Why do they always show up when our rational, conscious mind takes a break? I mean, the proof is everywhere. They're in our dreams, our myths, our stories. They're at the root of our phobias and anxieties. It's like these animal forms are just a permanent part of our mental landscape, showing that the wall we built isn't nearly as solid as we thought. Which brings us right back to this powerful idea, that ancient mental software, that state of being super attuned to animals. It's still in us. It's like an echo from a time when our very survival depended on it. So, where does all this leave us today? Well, the final part of this story is about looking forward, and about how we might finally be starting to repair that giant chasm we created all those years ago. A huge part of this is coming from science. I mean, every year we get new research showing us just how complex and intelligent other animals are, how they have rich emotional lives. It's totally chipping away at that old, comfortable idea that we're somehow categorically different.
And this is the tipping point we might be heading towards. As the scientific proof of animal consciousness and feeling just keeps piling up, it might force us to completely rethink our morality. The old excuses for how we treat them might just stop making any sense.
And this quote really just nails it. It's pretty simple, right? Knowledge creates empathy. The more we realize that other creatures feel pain and suffer in ways we understand, the harder it becomes to be cruel. And here's a fascinating thought: the ripple effect. Historically, the same kind of logic used to dismiss animals has often been used to justify cruelty between different groups of people. So by learning to be more compassionate to other species, we might actually get better at being compassionate to our own. So we end on this. After this whole 40,000-year journey, after building this massive divide and then discovering its echoes in our own minds, we're left with a really profound challenge. If we finally accept that we're one of them, how does that change everything?